Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you in another video. All right, so I'm on a roll today with these therapy sessions, so I'm gonna keep them going. I'm walking back home after taking care of some business, it's just, the conversation today is just, doing the right thing. I encourage everybody to check out those last two therapy sessions. The first one has like a Laker twist to it, but I didn't label it that because it wasn't enough Laker stuff in there to label it that, in my opinion. But yeah. And then the last one, I was just calling out all of us to do better in regards to what we're allowing to happen in our lives during this era. The times we're in, it's complicity to genocide. Just simply put, we all need to do better. I know we've been rocked to sleep by the propaganda machine that has told us to first trust it, and then from there, not give a damn about Islamic people because they're jihadists and terrorists and all these different images that have been placed in our heads about these people for the longest. But I'm telling y'all, man, we're getting into a space now where I just heard of a story yesterday where a lady got into an Uber and sprayed her Uber driver in the face while he was stopped at a light praying. I guess he started his prayer process as he stopped the car, and she just pulled out a pepper spray and attacked him. She was charged with a hate crime. But it's one of those situations where I look at that and I say, man, we've allowed the presence of our politics and the centering of our support for Israel to really make it so that it's okay to vilify people of Islamic faith for any reason whatsoever. Because of course, as we always say, one lie begets another. So if we're going to say that we're supporting Israel and Israel is intentional on destroying all the Palestinians, then of course we have to support their position on Palestinians, the narrative that these people are looking to destroy them, so they got to destroy them first. It's okay to kill a few of their innocent people because, of course, it's Hamas' fault for using those people as human shields. And in order to get the bad guys, you got to attack some of the good guys. It's a necessary evil, and they're all going to grow up to be terrorists anyway. It's like that is leaving the room. That narrative and that upholding of so many lies is leaving rooms for people to look at people of Islamic faith as if it's okay to discard of their lives, as if it's okay to treat them poorly, as if it is okay for their humanity to be discarded of, no different than how we were treated as black people when that same thing was done in regards to us. It was okay to treat us poorly in the slavery days and thereafter. It was okay to keep us from certain things and to paint us out to be the worst people in the world. And when we decided to defend ourselves, you vilified all of those factions that would defend us. You discarded of our humanity until we had enough leverage to force you not to. And even then, you continued to trickle down George Floyd's and various different things that continued to show us that you really didn't care about us, and that you could very easily turn back into being who you were toward us if it were ever prompted so that it would be possible. So it's only right that one of our representatives, myself, speak out on that. As far as I can see, that's what this is. It's an acknowledgement of truth that you've never really changed your stripes toward treating people poorly. You just changed who it is that you pointed all that open racism toward. You turned that to the people that you call sand N-words, people of Middle Eastern descent, of Islamic faith, of brown skin. You treat them like you used to treat us. You discarded their humanity just as you did to ours. You discard of their voice and make it so that they can't be heard. You kick them out of circumstances where they would otherwise, places where they would otherwise be heard and represent themselves the way that they feel they should. You are no different than your ancestors because you're doing the same thing to different people. And it makes me trust you less and respect you even less. I want America to understand this. I want the world to understand this. I'm a black person who doesn't believe that my esteem should be wrapped up in how well I align with these lies. I'm not interested in being cool or aligned with those who are doing this cursed stuff, because it's cursed. The behavior is cursed. You understand what I'm saying to you? It's poisonous behavior. I don't have any interest in drinking poison. A lot of us are confused as to how much we should want from those who are willing to discard of people and make their own reputation poor by way of what they allowed themselves to be seen as while doing so. I don't want anything from them. The only thing I want from them is for them to hear me and heed the wisdom that I'm applying to their circumstance and follow that wisdom into a better light. That's literally all I want for the Zionists. I don't want nothing you got. I think you're an unwise entity that doesn't know when it's bitten off more than it can chew. That's what I think of you at this point. I think you've allowed your ego and your supremacy and your driven ambition to lead you into a space of no return. And I think your reputation is going to speak for itself thereafter, when everybody who's allowed to speak will be speaking about how awful and evil you were toward people for many generations, not just the one we're in. And every good thing you ever did is being drowned out by the evil that you uphold in this era. And I think it's a damn shame, because I'm pretty certain y'all have done some good things, but they won't be spoken of very much. And it'll be your fault. Whether you're strong enough to receive the truth about that or not is irrelevant. It will be your fault that you don't get the credit that you ultimately will believe you deserve for any good thing that you ever did, because you drowned it out with the upholding of your own supremacy and that for which was evil religion. You did that to yourself. I'm one that speaks the truth because I know something's going to kill me anyway. I might as well tell the truth about what it is I see. Because when I go into the ground, I don't want anything left on the bone as it pertains to me telling the truth about what it is I saw. I saw genocide in my life. And I know that I witnessed that with many people. Some of them were speaking, some of them are not. But I witnessed genocide in my life, and I told y'all what I saw on my channel. Every time I saw something, I tried to bring it up. I witnessed people lie about that and be okay with that. People I thought were to be idolized, even though I know better than to idolize celebrity. People I thought who were on the up and up actually proved themselves to be liars, actually proved themselves to be awful human beings. They proved it. I witnessed politicians, some of which I had been seeing for years, some of which I celebrated and voted for myself, aligned with those who were willing to hurt children for fun, standing behind a narrative that didn't add up at all, a narrative that was just as bankrupt as the truth was. And I watched a bunch of people who call themselves intelligent, smart people align with that same narrative without as much wisdom as to say that maybe this doesn't reflect positively upon me and my last name. I watched this. I also watched a bunch of valiant individuals endure some things that I never want to see in my life, in my own life, pains and sufferings that I hope to never experience. And I understood that it was done with those things were committed against them, funded by my very own country, some of my very own tax dollars. Sales tax that I probably bought a sandwich with or something. Sales tax that I probably bought some jeans with or something was used to ultimately inflict that pain upon them. These type of things are supposed to be acceptable because, of course, it's not happening in our city, right? It's not happening in our country, so why would we care, right? It's not happening to my people, so why do I care, right? That's how I was supposed to think. That's what I was taught. And I watched that same indifference pointed at my people helplessly. And what am I supposed to do? Hold people accountable for it? We did it to others. It was just our turn. Whose turn will it be tomorrow? Who will we pretend we don't see suffering tomorrow? Who will we pretend that we don't see them going through horrible things that most of us would pray every night to never see in our own lives? It's not enough to go through those things, but to be in a world where nobody cares, where you screamed and holler from humanity and mercy, and nobody responds because they would not be bothered with what comes with that. Or because it happened to their people, and nobody came to their defense, they ain't gonna come to nobody else's, because who was there for me? Selfish type thinking. Driving people to be complicit to genocide. I've seen many people, whom, if by way of the truth that I understand, I would have thought the worst from, stood up and bucked that just like I'm trying to here. Many white faces. Many people that I would have thought the worst of if I would have followed what the truth has been in regards to what has been shown to me and shown to my people. I would have thought these were some of the people that ultimately I couldn't trust, but they were the same ones who were standing up against genocide. I honor those people. All faces who decided they were going to speak out against this nonsense, knowing that it wasn't popular to do so. Some were white, some were black, some were Palestinian, some were a different religion entirely, some were Asian. I've seen many people stand up to genocide in this situation. And for that, I have more faith in the idea that good can be found anywhere, just as indifference and evil can be found anywhere. Just as my mother taught me to believe. I've seen it. And if I'd have judged every book by its cover, I would have been lost in the process of listening to some and ignoring others. Racism is what ultimately this is pointed at. But the reality is I've seen some good people of all kinds of races, and I've seen some awful people of my very own race who could give two cares about what's happening to people who are being put through things that they wouldn't be able to survive. That's what I've seen. Celebrities that are my own skin color who told me to respect myself are not respecting themselves when it comes to this conversation. Who would rather not piss off their lawyers or their doctors or whoever they're in business with and risk ruining whatever opportunities they have to continue their careers. Rather not have the smear campaign that would ultimately be coming their way, come their way. And to stand up for something that would ultimately tell the story of who they're going to be for the rest of eternity. They'd rather not be shunned in 2024 while the bad guys still control everything. They would rather be shunned for the rest of eternity after the bad guys were proven to be bad guys and everything under that was proven to be bullshit. Short-sighted entities that don't have the first idea about how to use what has been given to them for the betterment of humanity that they benefit from. Same people that buy all of their paraphernalia, support all of their art, they don't care a damn thing about because they're too busy trying not to piss off the people who signed contracts with them. This is what I see. Some of my favorite celebrities have been quiet on this. Some of the people I look up to the most have had nothing to say because they didn't want to piss off their lawyers. They didn't want to piss off the label heads. They didn't want those people to feel like they were disruptive, so therefore to snatch things away from them that ultimately gave them the ability to continue spewing whatever their truth is to the rest of us. Willing to drink poison for the betterment of what they built, not knowing that it's an imbalanced foundation from which all of that is standing on to begin with. And it was the corruption that they upheld that ultimately made it as unstable as it is. Lyricists actors, writers, all different types of people, comedians. They kept their mouths shut. Athletes, they kept their mouths shut. Embarrassing themselves for generations to come when it turns out that they were just trying to protect themselves and were willing to let others suffer in order for them to keep their reputations going. They embarrassed themselves for all time. Many of them probably dreamed of going down in history like Muhammad Ali. Dreamed of going down in history like some of the others who stood up for what was right. Instead, they're going to go down as a fleet of individuals who could care less about anything other than themselves and their reputations in the short term. They shamed themselves for generations to come. And they allowed those who were in position to make life uncomfortable for them to ultimately coerce them into that fate. I tell you the truth, man, there's a better way forward for a lot of y'all. You don't have to continue on this path just because you've been on it for the last year. It's time to use your voice. You're going to go down any damn way. If you're paying attention, you realize the people who you trust are not going to tell your secrets, are going to tell every bit of your secrets the moment it comes out that they're no good. They will use that same smear campaign that you kind of keep them from using against you if it benefits them to do so. It's coming anyway. All of your little nasty sex secrets, all of the parties that you went to that your ass should have been staying away from, that you knew from within your soul that you shouldn't have been rubbing elbows with those people, but you were still trying to uphold the same thing you're upholding when you're quiet about genocide, so you did some of those things. All of those things are going to come out. And the only thing that would have saved you from the horrible reputation of what comes with that is your truth in regards to the nonsense that ultimately you are upholding and how ashamed you are of yourself for being willing to do so for so long. It is the same truth that you refuse to tell that is your best defense against what is coming. That's the irony of all of this. And if you believed in a God like you should, you would know that. They say the truth will set you free. It most definitely will in this case. It's the only thing that's going to keep people from calling you the worst people ever. It's the only thing that's going to keep people from not trusting celebrities that come after you. See, that's what a lot of these celebrities have done. They've changed the outlook on celebrity itself. Many talented people are going to be looked at with a certain side eye, even when they don't deserve it, because of what today's generation of celebrities have ultimately allowed for the reputation of what a celebrity is to ultimately be seen as. Spineless, corruptible, self-serving, followers, entities that will allow people to suffer so that they can continue to enjoy the fruits of celebrity. That is what people are going to think of celebrities of tomorrow. How safe do you think they're going to be? How much is tomorrow's celebrity going to have to spend on security because of that environment? These are the type of things that you were so unwise to even care about. Just like your forefathers were unwise as to care about passing you something better than this, as it pertains to the reputation of being corrupt that you ultimately have because of the actions of them, being racist because of the actions of them. People think the worst of you already in some cases because of the actions of those who came before you. And you know no wiser than to pass something horrible to your kids too. So many of us, my mother used to say, don't let the devil rob you. So many of us allowed the devil to rob us of not only our lives, but our reputations, our dignity, our freedom to look ourselves in the mirror and say, I didn't just go along with every damn thing. I didn't find myself so self-serving that I wouldn't allow children to suffer. You've been robbed of that dignity. all of you who were silent to this genocide, the dignity that you have to look in the mirror and see someone who wasn't a complete and utter coward has been robbed of you. By way of the environment to allow for genocide to take place, and ultimately the adherence to those who were willing to uphold that genocide. They didn't just steal the Palestinians of their lives, they stole you of your dignity, your respect, your self-worth. So what you wanted to be famous? So what you thought you were bigger than everybody else? You had your big head that came from your celebrity status. So what? A lot of people fall victim to that. A lot of people who are in that space fall victim to that. Why is that the end of the world? That you found yourself doing some devious sexual stuff. Do you know how many deviant sexual people in the dark right now with all the evil they're willing to do? Everybody wants to get a nut. So what? You let that need to be not seen as that keep you in a space to allow children to suffer under your nose? You trying to tell me that was a worse evil? Who the hell convinced you of that? You'd be rather seen as a genocide enabler and supporter than be seen as a sexual freak in need of some mental help? You might have been a sicko. You might have engaged in some nonsense. You might have did something you had no business doing. A lot of people do. You let kids suffer so they can stay quiet? Don't you see how that's they don't wire right. There's something wrong with that. You're a father. You're a mother. You're an uncle. You're an auntie. You're a mentor. How the hell did you let that become more precedent? You're supposed to be a leader. You got millions of people following you. And this is what you took as more important? Keeping your little sex secrets silent was more important than saving thousands of children from horrors that they couldn't defend themselves from? What is there in your skull that convinced you in real time to believe that there's worse to be a sicko sexually than it is to be an enabler of child slaughtering? I would rather someone think of me as a sex sicko than somebody who stood by and did nothing while thousands of kids were murdered. I would rather that. Better reputation. Sicko who needed help. Couldn't control himself sexually. Worst thing in the world? That it is not. Someone who stood by sitting silently as people were slaughtering the hell out of kids, suffering them, screaming and hollering and shit. That's supposed to be worse? Being a sex sicko is worse than that? How did you let culture convince you of that? How did you let these deviant assholes who were sick sex psychos themselves convince you that being that way was worse than enabling child slaughtering? You stupid followers. That's what needs to be said. Somebody needs to say that, because a lot of y'all are silent on genocide because you don't want to be exposed as sickos in the sex category. Someone should have taught you that it's worse to be someone who was complicit to genocide than it is to be somebody who can't control what's in their pants. Someone should have told you that. They should have made that normal. And that they didn't was probably not by accident while you're sitting back here adhering to that bullshit. That's probably not by accident. The Zios knew what you would fear. They knew exactly what you would allow too. And they allowed you to prioritize certain things in backwards ways so that you would go along with things that you should never go along with naturally. They made the environment so that you would shun people for stuff that doesn't necessarily hurt as much as stuff that you would allow, so that you wouldn't be seen as someone who would allow for any of the things that ultimately they want you to think is worse. It's not worse. That's not worse. That is bad. It's not worse. You understand what I'm saying to you? Yes, being a sex sicko is bad. It's not worse than being an enabler of child killing. It's not worse. Being a child killer and that of enabler of child killing is worse, fam. I have to say that, and you need to know it. All of you sick ass, silent sex sickos. You'd rather be known as that than what you actually are going to be known for being quiet, trying to keep that from being exposed. In the long run, they're going to look at y'all worse. What you allowed for was a worse reputation. Hopefully somebody hears that and change the narrative on their lives rather quickly. Change the narrative on your lives rather quickly. Stop letting this environment that is short-sighted in nature, that enables you to think that you should be okay with people killing kids so long as your sex secret don't come out. Stop letting that environment coerce you into being deserving of far worse things. Far worse things. And the sick thing about it is this. Because of your choice, far worse sex things are happening to people than what it is that you're probably guilty of and trying to keep quiet. That's the messed up, devious nature of what all of this is bringing to the table. You're allowing for worse things to happen in the area of what it is that you're ultimately fearing being exposed for. That's why all this is so unwise. All of it. Every bit of this supporting Israel is unwise. All of it. Every angle of this lacks a certain protection for the person engaging in it. It is unwise. For everything you're trying to protect, you are bringing yourself a worse reputation. For everything that you ultimately fear, you're ultimately coercing yourself toward more of it. All of it is unwise. You think killing people is going to bring about a safer space for you. Unwise. All of it. The whole Zionist intention is unwise. That they think they're chosen by God that they don't even believe in. Unwise. That they would commit a genocide so that everyone can see and think that they're safer for it. Unwise. None of this has any wisdom attached to it. It speaks to religious extremist following and a lack of critical thinking and an ego that is bigger than that of one's brain. It's to say that I can be exempt from the consequences, natural consequences of certain behaviors. Where does it stop? You might as well jump off a roof and believe you can fly. Since you can defy all logic and consequences, why does it stop there? Why stop at genocide? Why don't you jump into a lion's den and hug all the lions? Or even better, try to steal their food. Since you were exempt from all consequences, why would it stop at this? You know, I'm looking across the street at an Armenian flag, and I understand that they went through a genocide of their own. I don't know the history of that. All I know is it was between them and Turkey, and apparently Turkey did a lot of slaughtering. A whole lot. I grew up around many Armenian people. Some of my childhood friends were Armenian. I didn't know the history. We weren't taught. I didn't know what y'all parents had went through, and y'all, I didn't know. If it wasn't for y'all having your Armenian genocide day where y'all would run down the street with your flags hanging out your cars, I would have never known this even happened. And I grew up with a lot of y'all. That's how we treat what's going on in our day-to-day. That's exactly the metaphor for everything that's going on right now with this genocide. We'll walk around with the information close to us, with people who can tell us about it close to us, and we don't know nothing about it. Except for seeing a few people who are willing to parade the Palestinian flag for us to have any notion that this is going on. Y'all let y'all evil ancestors who are burning hot in hell coerce you into a consequence that is ultimately going to bring you the same fate. Because you want to follow them down a path that would make you as bad as them. That is exactly what you've done. White America, that's exactly what you've done. Y'all gonna burn as hot as they ass did. Why? Because you were no better than them in the sense that you wasn't enough of y'all speaking up against this. Y'all would rather align with what would make you so that you would be accepted in this environment of debauchery, in this environment of indifference to the suffering of screaming children. You would rather not be seen as uncool or out of the loop or weird to people who would ultimately be cool with these things. People who needed to be shunned for the betterment of their own reputation. They needed you to step up and make it not normal for them to do these things. And you didn't love them enough to give them the consequences and the accountability applied to them, so that they could become better. You didn't care enough about them, even though you were trying to pander to them or appeal to them in such a way that would make it so that you were cool to them. You didn't love them enough to show them that what they were doing wasn't cool at all. You were a fake friend to them and a fake friend to yourself. Everything you did was transactional. Everything you upheld was without any backbone whatsoever. And that is the story of this generation. And will be forevermore. And many who come after you will be better than you. Many who came before you were better than you. But few of them were worse. And that's what's going to be understood about this generation. Few of them were worse. Because we saw what was going on. We had cameras on all the atrocities. We witnessed it. And very few people actually gave enough of a care to say anything. We had learned from the history of those who had made these type of mistakes before. So we knew why we shouldn't. And none of us cared enough to apply the wisdom. That's why we were worse, because we actually knew better. But weren't wise enough for whatever reason to apply the wisdom necessary. That's why we were worse. Call ourselves an evolving entity, humanity. I see us going backwards personally. The more lessons we learn, the more excuses we give ourselves to not apply the wisdom that come from those lessons learned. The more we understand about why we shouldn't do things, the more we give ourselves passes for doing them any damn way. It's a stupid generation. Easily swayed by shiny objects. Appreciate you, man. No, thank you, bro. We knew better. We knew better. And yet we didn't do better. And that's why I'm telling you, man, if I've learned anything in this life, it's to not follow any of y'all. Not want what you're aiming for. Not prioritize things the way that you do. Not fear what it is you fear, and not lie to myself about how much I believe in God, and then from there apply zero faith to my understanding. I ain't following y'all no damn where. I'm not chasing numbers. I'm not chasing attention. I'm chasing wisdom and quality to what it is that I'm applying to, and trusting the Lord to take care of all of that. Because if I trust you, you're going to lead me down a path of temporary success and long-term suffering. That is all I've learned. That we are a couple of days away, if not literally, then figuratively, from finding out everything that I just said is exactly as it is. This was a generation that wasn't smart enough to think its way through propaganda when it had already been revealed to all of us that propaganda is on our heads. Stupid. Silly. Unserious. All of those different things. Too busy trying to be famous than to have a good reputation for being famous. Too busy trying to be rich than to make sure that what we were ultimately earning could actually be kept. So microwaving our wisdom that we would forego a lifetime, an eternity even, for a few moments. When you think I'm going to follow you, people want to tell me, oh, why don't you up your intentions in regards to your channel? You should do all the different things to make your channel more famous. That's the opposite of what I need to be doing. With the conversation that I have and how much of a propensity the Zios have to want to silence someone like me, I should be aiming the opposite way. So that I had the freedom to speak the way I want to. I don't want to be famous and chase all this temporary bullshit you guys are. I want my channel to actually last so it can be found in the cloud 100 years from now. We aiming for different things, man. I'm not one of y'all. I ain't cool with genocide. I never was okay with seeing people suffering. Whether it's my people, your people, them people over there, I don't care, bro. Nobody should have to watch their child die like that. Nobody should have to hold their kid in a blanket and walk down the damn street because they ain't got no place to bury him no more. That is not okay, whether it's done here or there or anywhere else. And you ain't about to change my mind about that with your agreement with one another to be short-sighted and silly. I'm not rolling. That's all I see is short-sighted silliness. People okay with other people suffering so that they can have a little bit of fame that ain't even gonna last. So they can feel good within the reputation that ultimately is about to go bad. It's good right now, ain't it? All right, that's cool. It's gonna be shit forever, but right now is what matters. That's how y'all moving. Y'all see with your own eyes how quickly we move from story to story on the internet, and yet a lot of y'all will do everything you can to keep your temporary story from being out in the open instead of just saying, "Yep, this is what I got going on," and we're moving on. You know that's what happens with every story, no matter how egregious it is. It's going on right now. We move on from it, see to something else. And yet y'all will do everything you can to pile up the worst possible thing about yourself in silence so that it won't come out for the little 5 minutes where people will pay attention to you, as you'll be embarrassed for 5 minutes, people forget about you. If you a sex sicko, I've already said it. If you embezzle some money, I already said it. If you did any damn thing, the fact that you would choose to be quiet about that and in place of that allow yourself to be seen as a genocide supporter just speaks to everything unwise about all of y'all who do that. You let the measures of the man who wanted to do the worst things be what you're aiming for. You let those who are afraid to be exposed for what it is that they shouldn't be doing on a massive scale keep you from being somebody who stood away from them for all time, to be seen as that, away from them. They was doing that, I was over here. That's the only thing any of y'all should want. Zionists were doing that, we were over here. Not aligned with them, not compliant with them, not saying, well, shoot, ain't no way they're not going to keep getting away with this, so let me make sure I'm on the right side of history by letting the wrongdoers who are doing unwise things continue to do those things with my help and compliance. Absolutely not. History ain't taught you nothing about that. That doesn't work. That's not how that works. They get outed eventually, and then everything that they attach to ultimately gets outed for supporting them. That's how that works. But y'all just keep on aligning with them. Keep on being silent for them. Keep on fearing that they're going to take something from you when they about to lose every damn thing. And then call yourself somebody who believes in God. Craziness. You must believe in their God, the one that chose them to allow them to do all the worst things in the world, to suffer the ills of whatever it is they choose because they are better than us and therefore. The God that they say they believe in but don't actually believe in. Or the God they say they don't believe in but actually adhere to all the violence that ultimately he told them to do in their little book. You following them down the path of the future, right? Because they own everything and money is key, right? Stupid. Stupidity. You're going to go down to some of the stupidest people that ever walked the earth. Tell me. I'm letting y'all know. You're laughable. The future is laughing at you. Your grandkids are laughing at you. Like, how the hell are they this dumb? Anyway, man, I'm at a space where that's just what it is. That's exactly what it is. I'm not worried about what other people are measuring. I don't want what you want. I don't, what you call success, not success for me. Adhering to the people who can hand me that success, knowing that they're killing children is not something I'm interested in. I don't want nothing they got. They're cursed. When consequences come for them, I want to be far away from the explosion. Literally. That's exactly how I feel about that. When their enemies come for them, I want to be far away from them. I don't want nobody tying me back to them. I don't want nobody saying that he was complicit in what they were doing. I don't want nobody to say he feared them so much that he allowed them to do whatever they want to do. I don't have nothing to do with that. They did what they did. I was over here telling y'all you shouldn't listen to them. That was it. That's how I'm going to go down in history. Whether I live for another 50 years or die today, that was all I was about. Staying away from them while they were doing the things that ultimately are going to go down in history as some of the worst stuff in the world. I wasn't doing it. I wasn't with it. I didn't fear them. I didn't like them. I didn't like what they had for me. I wasn't interested in none of it. You understand what I'm saying? I don't care what nobody talking about. Literally, I'm not interested. If that's what you on, is adhering to Zionist Jewish supremacy, believe me, I'm not going to be on that ship when it sinks. I'm not on that ship. There wasn't no propaganda, wasn't no coercion of any kind. There wasn't nothing within the system that made me think that I was most responsible for adhering to that at all. I don't care how many of y'all educated people beyond what I'm supposed to be intelligent enough to think about, all of y'all who are in the know, all of this shit. I don't care about none of that, bro. Because when what comes for you hits you, I'm not going to be anywhere near you. I actually knew of a God. I knew God. That's what you're going to say about BDF 44. When he walked the earth, he knew God exists. There's a lot of people who said they believe God exists, but they did not apply that faith when it was necessary. They adhered to man. Not me. No. Not when it came to this. I learned that lesson. It did not adhere to man in this one. Not on this one. No. I don't care how much he controlled Zionist, the entity that is mankind controlled. I don't care how much they could do to me, it seemed, so therefore I should fear them. I don't care how many demonstrations of torture that they were applying to people to try to deter me from the truth. Cancer can torture me. You understand what I'm saying? I can catch that without even doing anything. One of my own people can shoot me out in the street thinking I'm from somebody else's hood. What the hell am I being compliant to you for? Why would I fear big bad you when it don't take nothing but a spider bite to put some poison in my system and take me out? So many of us are so convinced that we should be applying fear to the entity that is bigger than us, in a sense that if it wants to do wrong, it's fine to do. And we forget that we could die of something very small. What's actually going to happen to you may not have nothing to do with it. While you were adhering to them. When karma come knocking on your door for adhering to them, that's going to be what brings you down, not them, but you allowing them to do what they did without any resistance. That's what's going to actually kill a lot of y'all. That's the irony of that as well. You were safer over here being weird. People like me telling y'all not to allow genocide to take place, and it is perfectly fine to advocate for the rights of Palestinian people. You're probably safer over here with me than you are adhering to that bull crap they doing. The only reason why they're as strong as they are because they have so many people like you sitting there being quiet, letting them do it. Fearing them the way they need you to fear them, as if the only thing that can kill you is them. The only thing that can torture you is them. Not knowing that it's going to be the stress that you put yourself through when all this hits the fan that ultimately going to take a lot of y'all out. I hear that it may have been Sudan, maybe in Sudan, where 150 women committed mass suicide to keep from being mass raped and slaughtered. And you know who armed the Sudanese people? Who are fighting these people? Who stirred up that clan war that's going on over there that has them committing genocide against their own people? You know who paid them to do all of this? Take a guess. Who stirred up that mess? And these are the people you want to adhere to. It's your adherence that makes them as strong as they are. That's the irony of the whole thing. You dig enough, you're going to find out they got their tentacles and their money and investing power in all of the world's atrocities, not just a few of them. In all of the worst conflicts in the world, inner conflicts in the world, not just a few of them. They own every damn thing. Damned is not a word that I use lightly. It's all cursed. It's the point. I will not adhere to them. I adhere to God. I keep telling y'all, that's it. God, the one that's telling me to hear him when he says, don't adhere to them. I don't care if the whole world is adhering to them. You be the one human being that does it. You be the one human being that tells the truth. And whatever your fate is from that is blessed because you followed me. That's what I know. Trying to tell y'all to do the same thing. Get a relationship with the living God, not the one in the book that's telling them to destroy people. That's not God, that's his enemy. They call him God, and they know that you're not going to know the difference. But the reality is they were chosen by that entity to do these evil things, to uphold the disruption on this earth that ultimately makes it so that war is possible with God. And if not for them, there is no war with God. They uphold the very nature of the spiritual war we're in. They are the enemy. It's the point. If any of this has taught me anything, it's that very thing. The devil is the master of confusion. And the evidence of them being of the devil is in the confusion of the base of what they're doing. Following the ideology of an atheist that tells them that they are supposed to be given the reins to control the earth by God. That in and of itself is a hypocrisy and a confusion that cannot exist within itself. And that is what is powering them forward on everything that you're seeing. And many of the stuff that you're not. It's the essence of the devil himself. Confusion, hypocrisy. Before you find out anything else about them, if that's the first thing you hear, you already know where they're coming from. Even if they have no awareness of self, you should know where they're coming from based on that fact right there. And it should be no wonder why there's so many souls that are adhering to them. So many souls that will allow themselves to prioritize the wrong things in the name of adhering to them. Because that's the essence of what the devil does. He allows for confusion on many levels. So when you understand the essence of what it is that his most basic fundamental foundation actually is, which is absolute and utter confusion, then you understand that everything that piles on top of that, it's just furthermore the essence of him in place. So of course he has a good portion of the world doing the wrong thing in the name of the wrong ones, chosen ones. Of course. How many people are coerced into sin by way of their own temptations and by way of peer pressure and things? It's the essence of the evil around us to begin with. It's just a metaphor for the evil around us to begin with. That's why the majority of people you see are silent to this genocide, because it's the essence of the evil around us to begin with. It is more detailed DNA of the circumstances that ultimately drives the world to be as evil as it is. It's a metaphor. That's why you see so many people that you trusted as celebrities and government officials aligning with this. Because it's truly driven by the enemy, whose foundation is confusion. If we know nothing else, if we're going to protect our children, and many of us pride ourselves on being people who protect children. I'm walking past an elementary school right now. Then we have to understand what keeps them safe. A good reputation keeps them safe. Not furthermore reinforcing a bad reputation that makes people dislike us furthermore, thinking that they need to protect themselves from us. But that for which is providing a peace to the world so that nobody will want to come after us for the wrongdoing that we do. That's what keeps people safe. Being indifferent to the wrongdoings that are being done above us does not keep us safe. Being complicit to genocide does not keep you safe. And that you would be confused as to believe that it does just further speaks to the essence of the enemy within it. The confusion that drives such a behavior. That you wouldn't be able to see such a simple, very simple angle speaks to the cloaks and confusion used by the enemy in every other area he does. That you wouldn't be able to see something as so simple as to see that very clear understanding. But I'm the crazy one. I'm the one that's weird. I'm the one that's apparently, I guess, unhinged in this world for speaking this way. Imagine that, my descendants. Imagine that, the future people. I'm the weird one. I guess I'm, if you stop thinking entirely, the one who wants to see terrorists succeed. Because that's the narrative that's out there. Forget all the dialogue in the last 3 videos and any other videos that I made on this subject. If you listen to the people who are there to tell you, well, I am obviously a terrorist supporter who wants to see Hamas continue to destroy the Jews and all of these other different things that you would have to literally not do any thinking at all in order to believe. You'd have to do no praying and no thinking whatsoever. Both of those two things to be zapped completely out of your ability in order to actually go along with that narrative after everything that you've actually heard me say. I've done all of the thinking for you in this video, basically, and told you exactly why you should believe this is devilish energy that is driving all of this. I've shown you exactly why you should not go along with it and what's going to come of you if you do. But ignore all that. Listen to them who are doing this, who need to be listening to what it is I just said just as much as you do. Ignore me. They're who you trust, right? They'll tell you who I am and who everybody who says what I'm saying is, and therefore just trust them, right? Innocent people are dying, but it's only because Hamas is using them as human shields. You need to check out that documentary by Al Jazeera English called Gaza. It's about an hour long. I mentioned it in the last video. I mentioned it in this one. You need to check that out. And then tell me who's using who as human shields. Not based on what you heard, but what you see. What's the evidence shows you? What does the evidence show you in that situation? Apply what you know there, and then think about everything else that's been said here. Video 44. I thank you all for watching.